can count on I'll be home for Christmas.
Oh.
You sing the next part. You know it?
No.
If only in my dream. If only my dream. Christmas in Texas.
We in here, H-Town, Sealy, Texas.
Home for Christmas. Okay, so the good news is we did make it. There's lots of little parts missing to this story, and I'm going to tell you all about it here. Okay, so I didn't do the best job of vlogging and capturing everything that went down because first of all, there was so much unpredicted on this trip. And so I had to just kind of go with the flow. So any plans to film kind of just went out the window because all I did was add an extra thing that I had to do and add extra like stress to the whole experience, and I was not about to have that. It was already enough that we were dealing with and just trying to get home. So I didn't capture that much on video. I did take lots of pictures, which I'll share with you guys here in a little bit, so keep watching. But I just want to go back a little bit to tell you guys how all of this started. So we were actually supposed to leave Friday morning on December 23rd. Our flight was supposed to leave at like 6 something in the morning. We were supposed to land in Houston around 8 something, and we had tickets to an NBA game for that evening, so we would have had plenty of time to like get there, see my family, get checked into our hotel, get settled, get ready, go to the game, and then be back at a decent time to be up early the next morning for Christmas Eve things that we were doing with my family. That all went out the window. We actually spent the entire day traveling. So the winter storm that came affected obviously lots of flights. We are very blessed that we even made it home, and this is not a video complaining, this is a video telling you about our experience. Like I said, I would have captured a lot more had it been our normal plan, but it was far from normal. So what I did capture, I've shared here, and the rest I'm gonna fill you in. So the winter storm comes literally the day before we're supposed to fly out. So it affects a ton of flights, including ours. So we were canceled like 24 hours before our trip. So I start panicking. I've never had a canceled flight, a delayed flight, anything like that. I've never experienced like winter storm traveling, even though I have traveled in the winter. It's never affected my travels. So this was all very new to both of us. And so our flight was canceled, and then we were given options for other flights. So immediately I got the first one available, which still wouldn't have got us there in time for the game. It was actually an evening flight. So I was like, okay, well, we're just gonna have to miss the game. It is what it is. And so I continued packing, and I was like, all right, well, we're just basically just gonna push back our plan a little bit. And then like a couple hours later, that flight gets canceled. But that cancellation didn't have any other options to like replace the flight. So that's when panic set in. I was like, oh my gosh, are we even going to have a way to get home? And so I continued packing, and I was just like, you know, I was keeping in contact with my family, and I was like praying about it, and I was just like, you know, whatever happens, happens. Like if we're not meant to go, we're not meant to go. Hoping everything works out. And then I even called the airline because I was like, well, maybe they know something that the app isn't telling me, because this was all on the United Airlines app, and it was actually our first time flying United together. I don't think I have flown United for years. It's probably, I don't know, it's been like over 10 years since I've flown United. Terrence said he's never flown United, so we usually fly Southwest. Thankfully, this year we did not. look up all the drama with Southwest if you don't know about it. Not gonna get into that. I just feel, like I said, very blessed that we were able to get home. So anyway, there aren't any flights available, and so I'm just praying about it. I continue packing. I'm like, I'd rather be prepared anyway. So I called the airline and he said, you know, just keep refreshing the app, keep checking back, you know, we're trying to catch up. Check this evening, like after 4 p.m. By then we should have a little bit more information. So I was like, okay, so patience, right? So practicing patience. Terrence and I spent like hours just refreshing because we didn't want to miss anything. We obviously know other people are trying to rebook their flights, so it's like, okay, we kind of gotta like jump on this. So we're refreshing the app, I'm packing, praying, like, you know, whatever happens happens. And then I just happened to refresh it an hour before the 4-hour frame that I was planning on refreshing it at. I refreshed it like around 3 p.m. and a flight jumped up. Immediately booked it, didn't even think about it. But again, this one had us coming in the evening, so either way we were going to miss the game. At this point it didn't matter. I was already planning on selling the tickets. Like, I knew for sure we weren't going to make the game, but we just wanted to get there. Keep in mind that all of these flights that were replacing our direct flights all had connecting flights in Chicago. Like, everything United was connecting in Chicago. So it's like, okay, well, we have no other option, so it is what it is. We don't like having layovers, obviously. It's only a 2-hour flight to Houston, so we always get a direct flight. Obviously, we can be picky, so it is what it is. So anyways, I booked the flight. We're good to go. We're still praying that like nothing changes. The weather here at that point had calmed down. Like, the winds were very strong. It was obviously very cold, but the snow had stopped. So I'm like, okay, they're probably working to like get us out of here tomorrow. And so, you know, I'm just praying nothing changes. So I couldn't really sleep that night. Like, we did get everything packed, we got everything clean, we had a good dinner, we relaxed, we watched a movie. Terrence and I had our own like little Christmas. We opened our gifts before leaving, so we didn't have to like pack any of that, and we went to bed at a pretty reasonable time. But I just could not get like a straight night of sleep. I kept waking up and refreshing the app. I kept waking up and like checking my email, seeing if there were any like changes, any other delays or cancellations. Thankfully there were not. So we're like, okay, we're good to go. In the morning we, you know, get our stuff ready. We were like, let's get there as early as possible because it's the holidays. There's already been all these cancellations and delays, so it's probably going to be crazy. You know, the earlier the better. So we drove there, we parked, we got shuttled over to the airport, and we were there like 2 hours before boarding time. And honestly, the check-in line for our luggage was a breeze. TSA line was a breeze. We got through like easy peasy. So now we were like, okay, now we have plenty of time to eat and like just be at our gate. It was much better than being stuck in a line and like trying to rush. But anyway, so we stopped for lunch, which is the little clip you saw of the pizza. It was so good, by the way. Terrence works at the airport, so he's had the pizza before and he was raving about it. So we had it and it was delicious. And we get to the gate and it had all been smooth sailing up to that point, right? Because it's like, okay, our flight didn't get canceled, we got here early, we got to eat lunch, we made it through the lines. Like, it was all like going smooth, right? We get to our gate and we're waiting to board. Everything still says on time, but like it keeps flip-flopping like back and forth. First it said like you're leaving a little earlier, and then it said you're delayed, but it wasn't by a lot, it was like just minutes. And it kind of just kept flip-flopping. And then we noticed our plane wasn't even there when we were at the gate. So then we're told that we're waiting on the airplane to get there, so there is a delay. It was like 30 minutes. That turned into, I want to say like 45, and then we finally get on the plane, and then it took them a little bit of time to take off. So anyways, we're like a good, I would say hour 15 minutes delayed to get to Chicago, which is where we have our connecting flight to get to Houston. So we finally land in Chicago, which you saw the little clips of us running through the airport. I had to slow them down for the video so that you could read what was on each slide, but we were definitely walking very fast. Terrence wanted to run and I was like, I'm not running through this big old airport with I had my heavy personal bag. I didn't want to pack a carry-on because they charge extra for carry-ons on United. And so I just used like a large personal sized bag and put all my stuff in there, but it did make things heavier. And then Terrence just had his backpack as his personal item. So we didn't have too much, but they were definitely weighed down. And we both had to go to the bathroom. We were obviously hungry at this point, thirsty at this point. So we hurry up and go to the bathroom. We had already seen people running off of our flight. So we were like, okay, their plane must be leaving like now. And we're like, la-di-da, we think we have time because the app hadn't updated yet. It said we still had like a good 45 minutes or something before our flight was boarding. And so we stop at the bathroom and then we see more people running that got off of our flight. And I was like, oh my gosh, let me check this app. So I check it again and it said we were boarding in 20 minutes. I'm like, no wonder everybody's running. So we start like walking really fast because we realized that this airport is huge. And I'm like, oh my gosh, it literally felt like the scene from Home Alone when the whole family is running through the airport, which by the way was at that airport at the O'Hare International Airport in Chicago. Let me know in the comments if you've ever been to this airport. It was really cool and I wish I would have been able to like kind of take more in, but we were so rushed. So the tiny little clips that you saw were of me, like I was fascinated by all the lighting and so I wanted to capture it short quickly, but Terrence kept looking back at me like, are you seriously recording right now? So they were like 5-second clips that I slowed down for you guys. Again, just didn't have the time to really capture. So that's why I'm telling you the story now. So anyway, we're walking really fast. We're just like trying to get there. We finally get to our gate. When we get to our gate, we were supposed to be boarding like at that moment. Everyone is still just standing there. And I'm talking about, this is like a huge gate. People weren't even all the way into the gate. They were like out on the main part of the concourse, like, you know, where people are like walking back and forth. They weren't even all the way in to the gate. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's so many people on this flight. And so we're just standing around and the app hasn't updated. So at this point I'm like, okay, what's going on? And we had no choice but to just stand around, and thankfully there was a little coffee stand right across our gate. So we got like some cookies, I got a cappuccino, Terrence got some water. We were like, okay, well, at least we had a moment to breathe, right? But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh, more delays. So we finally start boarding, we get on the airplane. This is a huge plane. Like, it was huge. It was probably one of the biggest planes I've ever been on. The seats we were replaced on weren't the best. We actually were separated. Oh, we were also separated on our first flight, but it wasn't like, it was literally by one person, like in between us. So like it wasn't bad, and it was a much smaller airplane. So it was like, I just kind of like that and could see Terrence. But the flight from Chicago to Houston was huge, and he was like rows behind me and like 2 sections over. It was the plane with like the giant middle section, and I was over on this side and he was over on that side. Then we had all the people in between us. So it was a huge flight. And this flight, I'm thinking like, okay, we're on the plane, like we're gonna go any minute. You know, at this point we're only delayed like by an hour, so like it's not too bad. No. People kept coming and coming. It was like an international connecting flight. Like there were people from Mexico, people going to Guatemala, people coming from Germany connecting in Chicago. There were people connecting from like India. Like it was, I mean, there were so many different types of people and different types of places people were coming from and going. Like I said, it was an international like connecting flight. And we're just going to Houston, so we're like, we just want to get there. We sat on the plane for 2 hours. 2 hours waiting because they kept saying that they were trying to switch all the luggages over. I guess there were luggages coming from so many different flights, so they were getting everything transferred onto that plane. So the process was very long, and it was like, we're almost there, and of course now it slows down. And so we were originally supposed to get home around the 6:30 mark, then it got pushed to 7:30, and then it was like 8:45, and I was like, okay, 8:45 is like, it's late, but like it's decent. Oh no, we didn't end up getting home till like 10:30. So, or maybe it was like 10. It was somewhere around there. It was definitely like closer to 10. And so that was literally the entire day traveling. The events don't stop there. While we were on our flights, while we were in the air, finally going, thankfully, the guy in front of me decides to lean his seat back. And when he leaned his seat back, my cappuccino that I had from the place that I told you guys that I got my cappuccino from, I had it tucked into the pocket because there was like this much left. It fit perfectly in there, it was fine. But when he leaned back, the cappuccino like came out and pushed up against my leg and just like spilled out onto my white sneaker. I had my white sneakers for traveling. They're like my comfy white sneakers, but the cappuccino just spilled right on, literally just on my shoe. So then I have a coffee stained sneaker. The aroma was wonderful on the flight. It smelled like vanilla cappuccino, but the stain and the wetness on my shoe was obviously uncomfortable, and I was upset. But at that point it's like, what can I do, right? It's like, what a day it has been, right? So then that happened, and then, you know, we finally get there. Then they tell us that there are people on our flight that need to hurry up and get to their other connecting flight. It's like, oh my gosh, imagine, no, if I had more than one connecting flight, it would, I don't know, that I would have made it. Anyway, so the people that have a connecting flight have to get off first. So it's like, you know, we all need to be kind and let them off first. So it's like, we're already late, it's like, whatever, right? So we let them off, then we finally get off. We make it over to our luggage. The Houston airport is rather large too. Terrence had never been to the Bush airport. We've only ever landed at Hobby because that's where Southwest lands, and it's a little bit smaller. It's definitely bigger than St. Louis airport, but it's smaller than our international airport. And so anyways, so we're going through that too, which is big, and it's like a long walk. We finally get to our luggage, and again, we're waiting. So we're waiting on our luggage. My sister and my brother-in-law are on their way because at this point, like, it's late. Like, my mom was like, I can't drive all the way over there at night. It's harder for me to see at night and stuff, so understandable. So thankfully my sister and my brother-in-law came to get us, and thankfully they weren't like waiting for us. They timed it perfectly. They're pretty experienced with like the pickup process. They've had to pick quite a few people up at the airport, including us, a few times. So they timed it perfectly, so I wasn't too worried about them waiting on us. But we were waiting on our luggage, and it took a good, I would say 20-25 minutes. Our luggage finally started coming out. As soon as we get our luggage, Terrence was like, do you smell that? And I was like, what? And he was like, it smells like my cologne. And I was like, OMG, not this. So we immediately open it. It's like, just like the aroma like in our face of his cologne. His bottle had burst, I guess, from the pressure or whatever. It was like a plastic bottle. It had burst, and the remaining of his spray like leaked out completely. And so we're like, great, our clothes are damaged, because we had tucked his bottle into on the side of our, like, the clothing part, thinking it would be like safe there, but also he was kind of rush packing it and didn't put it in a bag, which obviously would have been the better choice. But lesson learned, I think, for him. and for me to like double check that, but it leaked out and all of our clothes smelled like his cologne. And then we were worried about stains, like, oh my gosh, did it stain all over clothes? So anyway, we finally get to my sister's. It's like 11 o'clock at this point. Everyone's tired. Terrence and I still want to eat dinner because like we've been on the airplane all night, but we want to check our clothes before we take everything over to the hotel in case we need to like wash something or whatever. So we opened the luggage, and the only thing that really got damaged, well, it wasn't damaged, but it was stained at the moment, was my green Grinch sweater. That's pretty much soaked in all of the cologne. And then there were a few other like undergarments and stuff that got the smell, but that didn't really get too wet, but the Grinch sweater pretty much took it all. So anyway, got that out, soaked it. Thankfully that stain came out, you know, whatever. So we get the stuff into my mom's car. We're taking my mom's car with us to get our dinner and to go get checked into our hotel. Super late, by the way. Like at this point we're just going to shower and lay our heads down. So we make our stop at Whataburger, and the rest of the trip was great.
Count of three, everybody say Merry Christmas. 1, 2, 3. Merry Christmas. Oh, y'all are good.
Stay away from each other.
We made it home. What are you eating? We're both snacking.
Smell it.
Smell it. It smells good. You thought it smelled funky? It's just popcorn smells funky sometimes. We're just snacking. We literally, as soon as we got home, jumped in the shower, and now we're snacking. And literally, I'm about to lay in bed and do nothing for a few hours. You're gonna nap, right, babe?
Yep.
He's napping. He actually goes back to work tonight. Right back at it. But at least we got home early enough for a little break. Let me flip this camera so I can show you guys. I haven't even unpacked yet. I'm usually the type of person that comes home and immediately unpacks. But that's not happening today. We had, you know, just really long days for the holiday. And so just need to relax. So I'm gonna unpack that later after a few hours of relaxation. Thankfully, it's just one suitcase and a couple carry-ons, but honestly, it shouldn't be too bad. I don't know. Why is that?
I've always like that. It's always been like that every time all the time, even back then. I used to go like kill them and stuff all the time. Like we come back home, it's like, okay, I'm home, but like mentally, like I'm still like.
So like physically you're home, mentally you're not.
Yeah.
Let us know if you feel like that too. Are you glad you're home though?
Yeah,
Feel
but
good?
I'm home.
It's it's really nice when you come home to like your familiar space, your cozy space. If you're like us, it's very cozy, tidy, clean, neat. Because I always leave it tidy for when we get back. We can have a nice clean space. But it feels good to be in your own bed and stuff. But it's definitely sad and a bummer that it went by so fast. And of course I want to always be with my family, but we made it safe and sound. So Merry Christmas. And talk to you guys next time.
Peace.